Hi and welcome back to my channel for another mixed media video. Today I'm creating a mixed media tag from some old packaging, and here I'm preparing the cardboard by spritzing some areas with water to remove the upper layer of the cardboard, and so I can expose the texture that is underneath. I will now adhere some collage papers to the background just to give it some texture, and I don't know which parts will show through in the end, but just to make sure that there is something to see behind my painting, I'm adhering some collage papers. I'm just using a glue stick to stick the papers down because I don't want to wait for it to dry when I use gel medium, and also these cardboard pieces tend to warp a little when you wet them, and when you cover them with a layer of gel, they also will bend a bit, and it takes, as I said, a lot of time to dry. And I think it's enough to use that glue stick, especially because I'm going on top with some white gesso, and that will also keep the papers a little bit safe. For some more texture, I'm adding some background stamping. I now add a layer of gesso, and today I will use a brush. Normally I use a spatula, but because of the texture, I use that brush to get that gesso into the texture. I'm using the Liquitex Basic Gesso, and it's not very heavy, so all the texture will shine through. I feel that it's a little bit too much texture, and I want the text to be more white, especially in the areas where the cardboard is shining through. And so I decided to add a little bit of the Neocolor crayons. These are the water soluble ones, the number 2 ones, and then add some more gesso, and the crayons will just blend into the gesso and give a little bit of color. When the gesso is completely dry, I go in with some acrylic paint, and I'm using the Prussian blue from Amsterdam, and I just thin it a little bit with water and add it randomly to the tags. I really love that paint because it's very transparent, and when you thin it down with water, it gives you such a pretty blue. I use a lot of water with the paint and just let it drip over the tag. I now go in with some heavy white gesso just to add some really white areas. I love to have some pure white on my backgrounds. For my main image, I wanted to use one of my Wildflower stamps, and instead of inking it with normal stamping ink, I'm using the Neocolor crayons. I just paint the crayon onto the stamp, and I'm using a green for the stem and a pink for the petals of the flower, and then I will spritz it with water and stamp it to watercolor paper. When you try this technique, I recommend practicing a little, because you never know how much water you need and how much crayon you want to have, and that's a little bit of a tricky thing, but you get really pretty results. Here I decided to stamp the flower twice because I want to know how this will look. I think this is going to be too light, so I will go with the first flower. I now use a brush with some water and just paint in the flowers. So I just use the crayon that is on the paper and blend it a little bit more. As almost every texture is covered up, you can just lightly see it in the background here. I decided to add a bit more texture with stamping, and I'm using the vintage script stamp. By the way, all stamps I'm using are my own stamps. I have a rubber stamp company here in Germany, and it's a very small family company, and my husband and I are doing the job. And on Sunday there will be a new release, so maybe you keep an eye on my YouTube channel, because I will have a video with one of the new stamp sets. And also keep an eye on our website, because the new stamps are 10% off. And at the moment you get 3% more of your whole order when you add the code 2020. But you will find all the information in the store. And here I'm adding just more color with the Neocolor crayons, and I blend them with a little bit of water and my fingers. I'm using the same colors that I have used for the flower to get a cohesive look when I stick the flower to the tag. I want to create kind of a frame around the tag, and therefore I'm using the black crayon. I'm adding even more stamping with some of my mixed media mark stamps, and I'm using the stitching borders. I felt that my main flower is a little bit too light, so I go in with some watercolors and just add a little bit more color. To finish up the composition, I die cut a wildflower from the Tim Holtz wildflower dies, and I also used the watercolors to color that in. And I just will arrange this on my tag together with my stamped watercolor flower. I also used one of these Wordblock dies and cut the word dreams. Before I adhere everything, I decided I wanted to have a darker border around the tag, and here I'm using the gelato, the black one, because it's more creamy than the Neocolor crayons, and so I get more pigment to the edges of the tag. I do the same with the word I've cut out. Before I'm adhering everything, I add some white splatters. To stick down my elements, I'm just using some simple craft glue. I wanted to make the flower pop a little bit more from the tag, so I use my black Neocolor crayon and just scribble it to my glass plate and pick that up with the brush and add a shadow around the flower. I'm almost done with my tag. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we will see us next time. Bye!